is the Sheriff of Lark Street. I am Aidan Hennessy, or as most folks know me at home, the Dojo Beyond Time and Space. And I have been perennially, seeing your Instagram videos pop up.
I'm aware.
And over the last year and a half, I've been commenting on them.
I'm also aware of that.
I'm glad my presence is felt. But over the last year or so, I've seen sort of a shift in tone in some of your content. You're also running for office. So I wanted to give you a chance to speak to my audience, yourself, and remunerate sort of if you feel like I've been treating you unfairly, and maybe we can come together and have a more nuanced opinion after this conversation.
Okay, well, I certainly appreciate the ethos informing this, that you want to start a dialogue. I don't know necessarily that you've been unfair about your critiques of some of what I've said, but I think your interpretation of it is perhaps missing the mark of what I've been saying, which I would even claim hasn't changed much at all.
Okay.
It really comes down to what extent people are engaging with an underlying mission, and that's what I would say about that.
God bless. And I gotta say, can you spell out your underlying mission?
Sure. I think the first thing I will point out, because you referenced that I am running for office, is that I am running for office as a party unaffiliated candidate because the policy positions that have been adopted artificially and without rhyme or reason, in my perspective, on both the left and right side of this political spectrum, whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican, working families, conservative, it's all garbage. Mm-hmm. It's all bullshit. And I think what has happened is that people are suffering from these mythologies about what it means to be liberal or conservative or Democrat or Republican. And my underlying perspective is such that I am trying to create a stable functioning for a city ecosystem where I both live and where I operate a business. And that means that you have to attend to all of the different ills, misfortunes that are crippling what I believe is the city of Albany's economy and cultural fabric.
And I think that's a great mission statement. But you have this air of nonpartisanship.
Sure.
You're like, I am party non-affiliated, I am all of these things. And I understand we're in Albany, so, Democrat Central. But it really seems like you have a particular ire for left-wing Democrat politicians. Who would you say maybe in the establishment or right-wing spectrum of Albany politics that you've criticized?
Well, one of the problems here is that I'll concede I'm not really familiar with any conservative or declared right-wing candidates or politicians in the city of Albany. It's a good question. I think one thing is that to the extent that you've seen me criticize political liberals in our municipal administration or our state administration, that's a function of two things. The first is...
And can I say, criticizing liberals?
Yeah, roger that. So the first thing I would say is that they're the meat. Mm-hmm. They're what's out there. And so to the extent that they're governing, I mean, naturally I'm going to be criticizing them because they're the game in town. Okay. The second thing I would say is that I expect more from them. Mm-hmm. I 100% expect more from people who, by virtue of their political, philosophical upbringing and background, should be the ones who are open to more ideas. The idea about conservatism generally is that it's more traditional. There is, almost by definition, less room to embrace, let's say, slightly more unconventional, hard-to-define thoughts. Mm-hmm. Liberals, on the other hand, should be the big tent. And the fact that the left-wing strata of our political ecosystem is increasingly a smaller and smaller tent because of ideological purity tests is why I believe they're the ones who are most ripe for my critique.
So, all right. I think that brings us into sort of how I initially found you, which was there was a series of shootings on Lark Street.
Yep.
The first majorly of profile was at the previous Cafe Hollywood, now Stax. And sort of the Sheriff of Lark Street Instagram started to gain popularity. I think initially the first thing I saw from you was, and it didn't even register for me at the time, was like a freak out video at like Best Buy or something
Sure,
along
sure,
those
sure.
lines.
Right.
And then maybe it was something at like the Dunkin' Donuts.
Yep.
And so those had gained some traction. And I just think like, all right, like there's a million shitheads posting this kind of stuff. It gets lots of traction and God bless. Like it's not something that sort of ignites the discourse that I want to see, but whatever. It gets clicks and I totally understand it. And it was mostly promoting the whiskey.
That's right. Where we are right now.
Yeah. We're at the beautiful. I'll give it up.
Thank you, Aidan.
Very beautiful New Scotland Spirits tasting room. You're promoting the whiskey, and then the next thing I see from you is commentary on that Cafe Hollywood shooting.
Yep.
And you were very vocally calling out Gabriela Romero.
Sure.
Yeah. Which I thought, especially at the time, she had just won her primary. I believe. I'm trying to think
I believe
about the
actually
timing.
at that point she had won her election
She won
to
her
be
election.
our new assembly member. That's
Yes.
right.
Yes.
And
yes,
interestingly enough, her representation extends both to where I grew up in the town of New Scotland. She is my assembly member there. She's then also my assembly member where I live now here in Albany.
Mm-hmm. And I've had a couple interactions. She was actually on last year's show of Capital Region Feud, ladies and gentlemen, November 7th, Lark Hall, 7 p.m. Back to this. She was on her first show, and a nice lady, got to speak with her. You had come out with criticism of her, but I didn't really see criticism. And the criticism was, what is the Albany Police Department response to this? Why do we not have police sort of stationed on both ends of Lark Street to undermine this type of things? And I wonder, I'm like, what does a city council member influence? What is their influence on this? And not the mayor, the police chief, these other figures sort of in city politics.
Okay, so all great questions. And the first thing that I think we need to do is set the stage for how that criticism came to be broadcasted.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I would say is that in between those freakout videos, which you referenced, and what ended up being a shooting at Cafe Hollywood, I had this sense of a transformation somewhat. I went from being just a business owner trying to promote my product to watching as the security climate and overall amenability to business in Albany started shattering. Okay. And at that time, I kind of adopted this moniker, both because it was buzzy, but I also thought it was an interesting symbol around which people could rally of we need to arrest the decay in the city of Albany. At that time, then council member Romero, she and I didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things relating to what it was essentially known as the Lark Street bid, the Business Improvement District. And I should also point out, full disclosure, that I absolutely kicked it to then Assemblymember Romero. She's a very striking figure, not knowing that she was at the time engaged. And so she very rightfully rejected my advances, but I feel like I should, in the interest of full disclosure, reveal that. The way in which she and I perceived the quality of life on Lark Street to be best addressed. So here's one thing that I will point out.
Yeah.
If you look at the other entities on Lark Street, I hate to say this, but one of the things that I found was that it was the predominantly black patroned businesses or those owned by black business owners who were doing business with me. One of those was Cafe Hollywood.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, after this shooting, which was a gangland style shooting, my understanding is that a firearm was brought into the facility before business hours. It was hidden there, and then there was this whole sense about how Cafe Hollywood hadn't properly patted people down despite the fact that they had invested in their own security. They being the city, closed down Cafe Hollywood. When 3 days later, there was a shooting at Bitchin' Donuts, the other side of Lark Street, and there was no similar demand that the enterprise be closed. So what I perceived is that...
I need to interject
Please.
there. Cafe Hollywood had been shut down in multiple occasions
Absolutely.
over the years.
No question.
For those sorts of issues.
I
So
don't wanna
I don't
deny
think
it.
I can question anyone sort of wondering.
are they following the correct safety protocols?
The only thing I will point out is that you're no doubt correct that there had been problems at Cafe Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
But the way I looked at it was this was a business that had reopened because, I mean, one thing I'll tell you is that every time I walked in there, I got patted down, and it was the only place on Lark Street where I encountered that type of treatment. So my first thought was, okay, wait a second. Maybe it is the right decision to shut down Cafe Hollywood. But what was remarkable to me is that there has been this total abdication of responsibility on behalf of the municipality to try to suppress the type of quality of life and criminal or mischief-oriented law breaking that existed here. So my first thought was, instead of targeting a private business, which you're right, there were problems at Cafe Hollywood, why do we not have the type of oversight or involvement of law enforcement that can let people see that coming to Lark Street, which is one of Albany's most vibrant, historically vibrant commercial corridors, this is not where you should come to break the law. And it's not been isolated there. I mean, there was a very violent breaking and entering, precipitating a sexual assault right on Lancaster. This has been an area that has been rife with crime, and one of the things that I noted was, well, that's what happens when you don't have a visible police presence. And so that's what I was calling for.
Okay. Well, so you say that there is this persistent lack of enforcement activity on Lark Street. And I can't say that I could find statistics on whether or not Lark Street was getting preferential or dispreferential treatment among the other neighborhoods of Albany.
I'm not even sure I'm making that representation either, to be clear.
Okay. So if that's not your claim, that the city is treating Lark Street specifically, dispreferentially in enforcement, why are you then asking for this preferential treatment to Lark Street?
Yes. Great question.
I get you're the sheriff of Lark Street.
That's right.
So I shouldn't.
No, this
is kind of self-evident.
This is a great question. And by the way, for the viewers at home, if you have not yet encountered it, when Aidan says that I'm the sheriff of Lark Street, we should be clear that is that's cosplay. I'm not actually a sheriff.
I had one prepared question for you. The sheriff's badges. Do you have to buy those at Spirit Halloween every year? Do you have to stock up on them?
Believe it or not, they're donated by Good Samaritans who keep giving me different badges. But in answer,
you'll have to show me your badge collection.
I'm happy to do so. In answer to your question, here's something that I will say about Lark Street. I do not demand that Lark Street get some sort of preferential treatment because I own property here or because I opened a business here. I own property here and I operate a business here specifically because I see myself as a steward of one of the most seminal resources for the entire Capital District. You better believe that there is something different about Lark Street than anywhere else in Albany. And that's why I came here. And it is one of the reasons why I say, if you, the larger Albany ecosystem, are going to disproportionately represent Lark Street and Center Square in your tourism brochures, for example, you should also be investing in what this area needs to be a safe and inviting place for business, for families. It is different than Upper Madison. There's great parts about the city of Albany, but there's a real arts legacy, historicity. There's a real vibrancy to Lark Street that I think is being squandered, that's dying because of neglect of that intangible resource.
And I can't agree with you more on the intangible beauty of Lark Street and the Center Square neighborhood and the surrounding area. I was blessed to live here for 2 years, and I come from, sort of similar to you, a very rural background. And living here gave me that sort of urban, metropolitan experience that really made Albany different for me. So real quick, we're going to wrap up in a minute, just take a quick break. Do you have any points you want to get off just before we change topics?
Just that I appreciate you actually giving me an opportunity to express what may be context that's lost to people who only watch the first 30 seconds of my videos.
Or the people who watch the full minute 30 of my videos and, what can you put in a minute and 30
That's right.
seconds? It sucks. So anyway, we're going to be right back real quick. And we're back. We're going to touch very briefly back on the subject of increased police presence on Lark Street.
Please.
So you made this call. You said you want armed police on both sides of Lark Street. You want regular beat cop patrols. I was just wondering if you had considered any alternatives, namely private security by the bid, or you've been talking about this business cohort, I think is the name you've given it.
Merchants Association.
Merchants
Sure.
Association, apologies. So has that been considered?
Yeah, but let me give you a couple things here, because I think there's a philosophical treatment of this issue that we have to delve into.
Okay.
Into which we have to delve. Mm-hmm. The first thing I would say is that the reason private security via the bid isn't feasible is that it's just not cost effective. That bid's budget is $100,000. I've been very vocal about the fact that until very recently, there was no reason that I was getting dinged with a $500 tax because the bid wasn't doing anything. I am cautiously optimistic that the new leadership may be able to stand up and live up to the objectives of the bid, but to be clear, Aidan, they will not have the money for private security.
Is this new leadership with the exit of I can't remember the name of the owner, but
Yes,
El Loco owner?
El Loco,
Okay.
yes, that's right. So there's a new leadership here, and when I say cautiously optimistic, what I really mean is I'm just giving them room to test out their own optimism. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. But one thing that I want to be really clear about is when I call for police, you called them armed police. That to me is redundant. I called for mounted armor, and what I meant by that was cruisers, a squad car on either side. The reason is that I'm not particularly worried about gun violence in the city of Albany.
Okay.
Let me be clear about this. I'm not worried about it. It exists. It's awful. And I think the worst part about it is that the perpetrators often are youth, and so are the victims. But let's be clear. Gun violence is not the principal issue afflicting Albany. It may be the principal issue that people who don't understand firearms believe is afflicting Albany. The bigger issue on Albany is the quality of life offenses that are depressing economic activity. So, for example, aggressive panhandling, illicit and open notorious drug usage, open defecation in the middle of the day, prostitution, vandalism, graffiti, petty theft, burglary. Those are things that are happening. And one of the things about visible police, and when I say visible police, I'm not talking about the law enforcement officer in shorts on patrol with his bike. What I'm talking about is the visible presentation of a squad car that has a receiving area where you can hold someone who is engaged in criminal misconduct. It's a visibility thing, which my background in the Army counsels as being effective when it comes to trying to dissuade a criminal activity.
So I want to hit a couple things off of that. So if we're saying it's these quality of life issues, have you considered alternatives to addressing those quality of life issues? Have you not considered the ramifications of armed police presence? That might be a quality of life issue for a lot of residents of the city. You understand what I'm saying?
Great point.
A lot of people will not want to shop on Lark Street if they're like, I'm constantly being observed by an armed police officer in an armored, essentially, tank. You know what I'm saying?
I totally know what you're saying, and I think it's a point that's well taken. First of all, what you've identified here is the fact that there is no question a pathology between the perception of excessive and coercive law enforcement and people who have been on the wrong end of that treatment. And that's a really great point. One thing I will say is that you are absolutely right that if we are going to bring more police to Lark Street, that there has to simultaneously be a real commitment to changing the cultural animosity between the people who have been too often policed. I'm going to use in this context, let's say the black population.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
and the people who are in fact doing their best to maintain a safe environment for everyone. The reality is, it's not, in reference to your prior question, that I'm demanding that this area get more police than, for example, Central Avenue. What I'm saying is that the Albany Police Department is currently down 90 police officers from its billeting of what they think is necessary to provide visible policing in the city of Albany. I absolutely believe that until you have dissuaded criminality, because they say this is not an area that I want to go to, for example, vandalize a business or burglarize a residence, until you raise the stakes of that criminal conduct, to use an expression that I've repeatedly utilized, you simply can't put out you can't prosecute the arsonist before you put the fire out.
Well, it seems like you have this catch-22 of this cultural change that needs to happen around policing and people's perceptions of policing, and also people's perception of crime, peace and love. You say Albany is down 90 police officers from when it's billed that they believe. Do you know how they come to this figure? Because I was going through your videos and I saw, APD was called, and within 30 seconds there was a response. I couldn't really find any statistics on APD response time over the years. So I just don't understand. What is this 90? Are they having trouble responding to incidents?
It's not that they're having trouble responding to incidences. It is responding to the incidences means you're already too late. The point is that the incidences should not be occurring. So, for example, if we're at this tasting room, I'll just use this as an example, and someone is right here, they're engaging in, let's just say, they're shooting heroin.
Whatever.
Let's just say, drug
heroin,
usage.
Yeah, okay.
One of the things that's really frustrating to me is, there's a couple things that should happen. Number one, there should be a police response. But number two, there should be a safe consumption site where that individual is brought to engage in the criminal conduct. I feel like I am squeezed from both sides of the political spectrum of people who don't want to react to the common sense requirements of how you operate a city. Number one, you need to have policing in response to criminal conduct. Number two, you need to have a place in the context with drugs where they can go to get help, have some sort of monitoring, and remove them from a place where they're otherwise disrupting the fabric of society.
Well, I completely agree with you on on both fronts. We need safe consumption sites and we need policing, but we have policing. You know what I'm saying?
True. Yeah. I mean,
but we don't have a safe consumption site. You know what I'm saying?
You're totally
right. You're saying I'm being pinched on both sides. One side, maybe it's insufficient. It has not been proven to me that it is insufficient, but and maybe it is. We are completely lacking in the other opposite end. And I, more than anyone, understand the problems with citing a safe consumption site.
I don't. Let me tell you where. Can I give you tell you where a safe
please.
consumption site could be? Fucking Lark Street.
Yeah.
You want to know why I say that? Because they're here already. And the problem is that you get a bunch of political conservatives who are like, zero tolerance. We don't want to accommodate any drug usage. It's already fucking here.
Yeah.
Then at the same time, you have the more liberal contingent that are saying we need to accommodate and defer to and respect the dignity of people who have every right to be on the street. And because they're addicted, we should not be, for example, moving them along to other facilities. There is, just to be clear, there is a member of the Democratic Party who is our governor, and she is 100% opposed to safe consumption sites. If you don't have liberals or conservatives who are willing to stand up courageously and say, the problem is already here, we need to look at other solutions that have shown success in other municipalities, then it's like I'm shrieking into the void and I happen to be equipped with common sense to do so.
I don't want to say definitively, because I don't know this for a fact. You're asserting that the governor has a blanket opposition to safe consumption sites.
She does.
I've heard dozens of people in their opposition to a safe consumption site, particularly whenever they're talking about their specific neighborhood. I have maybe once or twice heard about someone who's like, we shouldn't be allowed to stop people from illicit drug use in the middle of the street. I think it's very rare. You're not allowed to drink.
I've seen it
off your porch.
I've seen it.
You know?
This is the problem. Remember, here's something that a lot of people are going to be absolutely stunned by. You want to know how I pay the mortgage? Because trust me, this fucking thing doesn't pay the mortgage. I'm a public defender. I moonlight as an attorney who provides legal services and defense and representation to the indigent. I'm intimately familiar with what legal authorities police officers have when it comes to engaging those who are in the midst of utilizing drugs. And one of the things you'll see, they give them an appearance ticket. They might even cuff them for a second. But ultimately, that is not going to result in the forced removal. They can say, hey, move along. Mm-hmm. But I think, I'm willing to say I'm not one of these NIMBY folks, the not in my backyard people. If I'm demanding a solution, I'm saying put it directly in my backyard so I can monitor it. I want there to be an authority that allows police officers who say you are engaging in reckless criminal behavior, which is to say the use of drugs. And you're not going to be allowed to do it on the corner of State and Lark at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. Yeah. You have two options. You either can be held overnight in jail until you get before a judge and are arraigned, or you go to a safe consumption site. And the issue with a safe consumption site, people think that this is like some sort of circus where you go and you just shoot up without consequence.
The opium den in the Sherlock Holmes movies.
And it's like, no, this is where people who are chemically addicted go to address their chemical urge, need, compulsion, whatever, and they do so under the treatment of people who are clinically trained to provide some sort of intervention services. It's almost like people don't want to accept reality on its terms, and I'm going to tell you right now, you versus reality is going to win every day of the week.
I think that's a good jumping off point. Really quick, on a safe consumption site in this neighborhood, I saw you speaking with Liz Joyce, I believe, city councilwoman. I might be saying the name wrong, but they brought you to the housing complex at the block, and they just shared horror stories about this place up the street.
Horror stories about your 45 Central you're talking
45
about.
Central.
Sure.
45 Central,
I mean, well, let me say, and one of the reasons why, to be clear, I am mounting a conceitedly performative write-in bid for the presidency of Albany's Common Council is because to borrow or quote Council Member Joy Love, the Ward 3 representative.
Apologies.
No worries. The Albany Housing Authority ain't shit. You have one job as the housing authority, and that is to provide housing, decent, dignified housing for those who are relying on you to make up the delta in their lives. They don't have the resources to be able to have a shelter over their head. And if they don't have shelter, they end up on Lark Street, they end up on Pearl Street, they end up on Madison. The Albany Housing Authority is failing in its duty to provide safe, clean housing for the people who are unfortunately on the lower end, on the scary side of the socioeconomic spectrum. And it's among the reasons why I'm saying enough of this, enough of, and we'll get into this, I'm sure, money being spent for cosmetic requirements, like, for example, renovating the New York State Museum, when there are so many abandoned buildings and crumbling edifices that need to be upgraded so that we can take care of the people in this city who have more of a need.
And I think that's a great jumping off point. We will certainly get into your call to fix the abandoned buildings in Albany, but I just want to go in chronological order. So I see that video where you're calling for police presence, and the next thing I see is a collaborative video with Two Buttons Deep that features a CBS 6 interview regarding the parking situation in Center Square and how that affects the businesses in this chain. And I can certainly commiserate. Like I said, I used to live about a block away from here. I drove my nice little 2001 VW Beetle. You could park that motherfucker between anything. It was great. But I totally understand people's complaints about parking. Obviously, I'm a little less empathetic as this is Albany's urban corridor.
Sure.
You know, if you want, there's 5,000 different box stores going up Central Ave, going up New Scotland, going in every direction. You know, if you want a place with parking, there are places with parking. In this city is literally, sorry, I'm going off on a rant. This city is 50% parking lot. This city is literally 50% parking lot. Sorry, I apologize. So that stuck in my craw in the video. There were a couple of calls. There was a municipal parking lot. There was, you wanted to paint parking spaces in Center Square. I saw that, and I thought it was definitely misguided. I made a video kind of calling out the Sinclair Media Group and their sort of coverage of the story more so. and Two Buttons Deep's collaboration with sort of right-wing figures, namely because I sort of knew that my audience would be more interested in that, But me personally, I am a huge urbanist. I want to expound upon the good urban character of the area, especially because that's what brought me here.
Sure.
I wanted to live in mini Brooklyn.
Me too. Truly. You said it. You said it.
So I just wanted to ask, has it been explained to you why painting parking spots is stupid?
It has been.
Okay, good.
I was wrong. The funny thing is that if you don't know the issue, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I would say that's a major problem I've had with you in the past, is you pick these issues and you take very harsh and strong stances that really, truly, if you did 5 minutes of research on,
well,
you'd
that's
be like,
one.
There's a better solution.
That's an example and there are plenty of them.
Yeah.
That is absolutely an example where. Actually, it was more like 45 seconds of research. I was like, oh. So, yeah, no painting of parking spaces.
Yeah.
Delineated parking spaces along the curb. That will not work.
So just real quick, the reason it doesn't work is you have to accommodate for the largest size vehicle.
That's right.
So it would decrease the number of possible spaces in Center Square.
When they actually did an assessment of how many spots you would lose, it was like...
Who did this? Who did that?
Is it Walkable Albany? Or,
yeah.
I was like, oh, shit. The great news, what I can always rely on is the fact that the deluge of content and media is so overwhelming that my dumber things that I say get buried. Yeah. That was dumb. Beyond that, I've never made any. I've never made any other mistake.
No.
That was
those won't come out in the rest of the interview. So what was I thinking? Also, has it been pointed out to you that there's a parking lot 2 blocks away from your business?
Here we go. So let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
The municipal parking lot. It
Yes.
is available for public parking from 6 p.m. until 4 a.m. Monday through Friday, all day Saturday and Sunday. Aidan, why the fuck aren't they advertising that? Why is it when I go over to my municipal parking lot, your municipal parking lot, why is it that I got to open the gate every day?
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
Now, why is it also that there's a gate at all? Who are they gating it from? Why is it that there are no signs saying that it's available to the parking after 6 p.m.? And by the way, what's really interesting to me is that I think this is a notable point. What's different about a linear left-right spectrum is the tone people use to discuss things, but it almost always is a desired same outcome. Mm-hmm. You are 100% right. This is an urban corridor. You should not get to park right in front of your business, right? Like, most Americans are so fucking fat they could use the extra the extra exercise coming from the parking lot. You want to know what my problem is?
As a fat American, I endorse that statement.
But you want to know what my problem is? That I'm not allowed to say straight up that Americans are fat and they need to walk from their car because it offends people. Let me be clear. I'm with you. That parking lot, they should advertise that it's available to the public. Yeah. People who come down here should realize that one of the magic things about Lark Street is that you get to walk down it. Park in the parking lot on either end and walk to your business. Walk to the place that is your destination, your restaurant, your bar, your wine store, your craft store. But let's not pretend that we don't have parking as a problem when the county lot refuses to advertise its availability to the public. That's my problem. I've made this manifest, this complaint manifest. I still have not gotten any traction from it. I'm entitled to be frustrated by that.
I would agree that not advertising that lot is a major failing on the part of Albany Parking Authority.
100%.
100%. And while I'm giving you your flowers, because this isn't going to last long, I want to, as an urbanist, I think that you are doing an important job. I don't know if you've read Jane Jacobs. Jane Jacobs was a primary opponent of Robert Moses in New York City during their urban renewal period. And she highlighted the importance of small business owners in maintaining the urban commercial corridor.
Oh,
right?
Thank you. Yeah.
And what you are doing, while I think a lot of the messaging is misguided. I think you are doing your job correctly in that you are highlighting your interests. You are working in collaboration with these other business owners to address issues, right or wrong, but you're expressing your interests.
Yeah.
You know, and that is getting out there, and that is counterfed against the interests of the broader public, you know, and then that dialogue happens. You know, I am part of that broader public that when business leaders come together and they're like, hey, we have these great solutions, I come and I vocalize, here's what's wrong with that. Here's our broader problems with that. But obviously I benefit in terms of social media and the short-term engagement farming in hyping up my rage at the business community and various small business owners, et cetera. But we're both playing parts of a very important game in terms of improving our city.
Yeah, and I also, by the way, will point out that, like, don't get me wrong, in most cases, the business community runs amok. I'll give you a great example. If you are someone who's going to do business here for 10 years and then leave, shut the fuck up. I'm here for good.
Yeah.
I got a 30-year mortgage at that brownstone. I mean, technically you do because it's a VA loan, but I'm not leaving this retail location. Like, I'm investing in Lark Street for Lark Street's objective. For me, it is not about the money. All I want in life is a rooftop deck. And once I get my rooftop deck, I have no other needs. For me, it is all about this community. Business is one of the ways that I do that. And I do think, I will grant this, that Bolshevik agitators like yourself are critical in holding the business community's feet to the fire, just like the business community should be critical in holding the municipal government's feet to the fire. There's absolutely a value to the people who are the residential base being the ones that are the, let's just say, the final say in what happens in a neighborhood. Because, you know, I think business is the heart and soul of a community. People are the community.
Yeah. And can I say, rooftop porch in Center Square,
Bro.
the dream. Okay,
Kidding me?
legally or illegally?
Illegally.
I also had one.
Did you really? Oh,
I had
word.
one when I lived here.
Yo.
It was very nice.
Trust
It was very
me.
nice. Were you in that apartment? Sorry, my apologies.
One of those.
It was very nice. And on the VA thing, me and my partner bought a house, and we like to joke that actually we bought the bank a house, but they're letting us live in it very kindly for 30 years.
That's not a joke. That's what it is.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the best jokes are true. Okay. I think I'm good on the parking stuff. So that video was part of a Two Buttons Deep collaboration. I noticed the collaborations have, like water in the Sahara, dried up.
Well, I think here's what I'll let you know. I'll
Yeah.
let you know that I have a frustration
Yeah.
that has now I kind of, you know, ended that relationship, and it's born of the fact that I wasn't getting enough play.
Yeah.
Because, you know, from my perspective, I don't care what the leaning of the megaphone is as long as I get to speak on the other end of it. And I believe that Two Buttons Deep, which is a local media company in the area, decided that I was too hot, too scandalous. All I'm doing is speaking truth.
They
And-
are so scared of me. It's so funny. Because,
Really?
I mean, what? It was like, as soon as I did a video that's like, what are they doing talking to this guy? They're like, oh my God, we have to pull it. We have to go
in
away.
fact,
We have to-
actually, you thanks a lot, Aidan.
Jack.
Thanks a lot, Aidan. You scared Two Buttons Deep away, which is why I'm.
You were
in
getting
fact,
some good traction
now
on that.
Now
My
I'm entitled.
apologies.
I'm entitled to this podcast because you owed me this.
Fuck yeah! I think you got a good legal case going there. Ooh.
Yeah, but that you know that relationship has dried up until
Yeah.
potentially it becomes commercially beneficial to hitch their wagon. That's what they do.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
their business, and they are feeding their taskmaster.
I mean, it was a brilliant crossover because what they do and what I was I briefly was aping this business model. I mean, they were just taking like the top rated thing on Facebook that is like vaguely in the Albany area and just posting it to their Instagram feed for free traction. You know,
Yeah,
God bless.
I don't. I actually don't know how their model works. What I do know is it was staggering how. Like, I don't know how they've cultivated that base, but like
Yeah.
for our whiskey company,
Yeah.
we tossed them some money to get exposure. Bro, like,
It's crazy.
It
It's
was
crazy.
effective, and I still
Yeah.
don't understand how. Just it is. I mean, the biggest. You had mentioned one of the things about shock value, and you're absolutely right. There is a calculated tone that I utilize to ensure that I get the eyeballs that otherwise aren't seeing whether it's my product or it's my message. And in fact, this is something that I will emphasize. Almost all of the critique that I get centers around this distaste for what people perceive to be exploitation.
Okay.
In other words, if I'm showing the plight of Lark Street, almost definitionally, I'm showing people at their quote unquote their worst, their lowest, right?
Yeah.
Someone who's maybe in the throes of a drug overdose, for example. And usually I do try to obscure identities to the best of my ability. But one of the things I will point out is, if you are in the public environment, your dignity is not my responsibility to uphold. So I'll give you a great example. If you are Vic Christopher and you're dating someone who's between 50 or 60 years your junior.
Yeah.
And
let's say theoretically, maybe not theoretically your name's Vic Christopher. Let's say theoretically your name is Chris Victopher.
Okay, fine, Chris Victor.
Yeah,
whatever. If you're going to put yourself out like that, you're going to engender, for example, commentary by people who have an outlet and may have a critique to make about it. I look at that as the exact same thing as if you are going to, because you are chemically addicted or otherwise, if you're going to engage in criminal behavior on Lark Street, you are not entitled to the privacy that would otherwise be your expectation. A lot of people are saying, why are you exploiting these people? I say, I'm not. I'm showing you what my lived experience on Lark Street is, and almost, I would say 90% of the videos that I put out there, I do obscure identities, and don't show who it is that I'm talking to, in part because, I guess I'll put it this way: there, but for the grace of God, go I.
Yeah.
I've pissed on a building when I'm drunk.
Oh, brother,
Right.
right there with you.
But
right there with you.
But let me put it this way: if someone had filmed me,
Yeah.
that's on me.
When I did it, I have to say, I think no one knew me in the city. I was like a drunk college student. It was my first time downtown. I didn't know how to get back uptown, and I go, I piss on the side of this building, and then I'm crazy drunk. I turn around. It's a window, full restaurant, full of people, all just saw exactly what I did. Probably talking about me.
There was a guy, drunk.
Probably
dude,
thought I was a drug addict,
drunk dude,
which I was in a sense.
Who, by the way, really great point. I want to say this real quick. One of the reasons, harkening back to an earlier topic, that I'm so sympathetic to a safe consumption site is that I'm operating a fucking safe consumption site.
Yeah.
For the world's most lethal intoxicant.
Yes.
With the supervision of my barkeeps, who are essentially like clinicians in the analog I'm trying to make here. So that's why it's like, please take your dogma away when I talk about safe consumption sites. I hate when people try to pigeonhole me as either conservative or liberal, because it's like, if you think that there is some sort of tether to either one of these, you're not listening to me. I'm not a moderate. I'm a fringe on both sides.
Yeah.
But anyway, there was a guy who pissed under my stairs directly on camera, and I confronted him about it.
Yeah.
And the cool thing was, I've since met the guy.
Yeah.
And he drinks here now.
Yeah. Is this the guy that specifically was like, I spend money around here, bro?
And dude, let me tell you something. I'm going to give this guy credit where it's due. One of the other things I obscured beyond his identity was his phallus, which is the largest thing I've ever seen on camera.
Why would you obscure it then? You got to do this guy some favors, for God's sake.
If you looked at the emoji that I utilized, you can pretty much see it. I was like, is this like a medical
It doesn't even make
condition?
sense, yeah.
Wild.
Okay, I do have I have some notes on those. I would call them a series of videos.
Okay.
Porch thief, yada yada. Are you admitting that any of these are staged? I have a sneaking suspicion that some of them are the same guy. Do you know? They're all real?
Yeah.
right.
I mean, by the way, Aidan, I just want to point out.
Yeah.
You've lived here.
Yeah.
There's no reason to stage shit.
No, 100%. I
Like-
imagine if you live specifically on this stair, you'd see.
And also, so what he's talking about, what Aidan's talking about, is there have been a series of videos that have been the result of footage that I've collected with my security camera system.
Yeah.
The big three, there are 7 altogether, but the big three are the security camera system catching the dude who was pissing on my stairs, the security camera system, which is why I got it, which captured the guy stealing my packages, which happens. I mean, I've stopped getting packages delivered to Lark Street, but I have so many videos of people stealing packages. But the one that was craziest was the guy who walked into my neighbor's house, stole his laptop while he was sleeping. None of that staged.
It's that one was totally real.
All real.
Yeah, okay.
That's all real.
I did want to say that if some of these were staged and you did write them, you could have a promising career as a sketch comedy writer. I'm going to be totally honest.
Well,
I was laughing my fucking ass off at
what's
the
funny?
guy that pissed.
Because when you get
Yeah.
that one was funny. The guy who stole the camera, so the police respond, and trust me, they're not down with being on camera either.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Could you please not?" I'm like, "Hey man, you're in the sheriff's world now. Like, you're gonna be on. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not giving. You're on camera.
Yeah.
And but to the responding officer's credit, I didn't put her face on it. I kept the camera on me.
Yeah.
But I'm able to jump into an absurdist framing.
Yeah.
And mine the situation for comedy.
Yeah.
Because it is hilarious. This is a needless, willful dystopia. And if it's not going to be targeted by the authorities positioned to be able to do so, or by the resources that absolutely exist, safe consumption sites as an example, then I'm going to start utilizing it to promote, at the very least, my brand, which is suffering on this corridor because people don't want to come to Lark Street.
And I just want to two things. I think there's two dilemmas you kind of face with some of your content, and I just wanted to put this forward to you. I think you've done it's a lot better now. But when I watched some of your content and the way that you frame it as I put these videos out here so that you see these conditions and feel that you should want to help these people or impact this situation in some way.
Sometimes. Yep.
So the sort of simplified paradigm I want to put out there is you may put out these videos thinking this should induce empathy for the homeless. But when I watch those videos, it makes me think, or someone like me think, we should get rid of the homeless. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
let me say two things. Okay. One, I want to be really clear. If you are out there watching me thinking we need to get rid of the homeless, then you are also saying we need to get rid of capitalism. And that's a conversation I'm prepared to have all day long. I'm ready to ride.
Yeah.
But let me also point out, I don't believe in morality. I think it is a construct that differs based on cultural upbringing and where you are. And I think that empathy is the wrong ethos. Let me tell you what the animating principle behind my campaign is. Ending poverty is good for business. I didn't say it's good for the soul. I didn't say it's good for the person. When I'm showing, for example, there's a guy I let sleep on my steps because where the fuck else is he going to sleep? It's like whether it's on my steps, at least he's off the street.
Yeah.
Which is I care not for his sake particularly, but because I want people on the street to be able to walk on the street.
Yeah.
I'm showing people not because I'm necessarily asking for you to have empathy for this person. Not even necessarily that I want to shame the city into saying this is a problem that you are failing to address. I'm showing people the reality.
Yeah.
And I'm commenting on the fact that this is an individual who has chosen my steps to sleep upon because it's better than the city mission.
Yeah.
The shelters that we have available are atrocious. The city mission, there's a religious component to it. me with a Jewish background, you better believe I'm not going to a fucking place where I have to sit and listen to your dogma of some other, Catholic instruction. Like, we have an obligation to enhance what the resources available to people who are trying to get out of those situations are. Otherwise, they're not going to choose them, and they're going to end up being on the street. So you make an interesting point, which is you're talking about a scourge, a societal illness that makes me think instead of having empathy, we should just get rid of the homeless. Yeah, I want to get rid of the homeless, and the effective way to get rid of the homeless is by giving them housing, treatment. That's it.
And I would like to specify, as get rid of the homeless, we mean get rid of homelessness.
Homelessness. By the way,
yes.
that's why, like, I want to get rid of homelessness because you will never get rid of a homeless person until you give them a house.
Yeah.
And by the way, that may not necessarily be the right response to every incident of homelessness.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons why someone might be homeless: mental illness, drug addiction, poverty. Let me tell you the number one reason that you will never see when it comes to genuine homelessness: choice. No one's fucking choosing that. And so when you keep that in mind, my perspective is I'm showing you what's out there. If you want to have empathy for these people, by all means. If you want to say, oh, this is disgusting, I want to get rid of homelessness, by all means.
Yeah.
For me, the objective is the same. You cannot treat a problem you refuse to acknowledge exists. And Aidan, let me tell you straight up, this street-based intervention clinician team that's going to come up and provide services to you on the street, that is a fucking dog and pony show. That's not real. And it's annoying to me that instead of us trying to figure out a dispersed solution for where you can provide treatment and services in an actually productive and conducive environment, we're talking about we're going to engage people on the street. Have you met homeless people before? It's frustrating. And I'll tell you, if you'd permit me to get on a quick rant about the 873 vacant buildings, I could talk about why I think this is all just one integrated plan.
We will talk about that later, 100%. And I would like to say that I personally am not an expert on street intervention and the effectiveness thereof. I am not prepared to defend it. I'm very happy to listen to different proposals in terms of street intervention, but just for people who are going to hop on my back for like, he's saying all these things and you're not intervening, I don't know what I'm talking about in this.
By the way, I also want to point this out. I also may not be knowing entirely what I'm talking about. Like, here's what I know. I know that to date, street intervention has not been visibly effective. But where to source this, because I think that's I appreciate what you did, and so I want to be as honest as possible in saying this. That my discussion of this comes from people who are unhoused. Because my response to, okay, well, the city's not dealing with this, I'm going to have to, led me to try to study the problem intimately by talking first and foremost to organizations, not just treating, but composed of the unhoused. And that's where I got a perspective on whether street intervention is effective.
That's great. And I'd like to get into some of the conversations you've had. Do you have any regrets relating to your earlier social media presence in these conversations that you've had? All right, okay. For a time you were censoring people's faces out of your videos who were being, for a time, I forgot to finish that question. So it seems like at the start, you very much featured people's faces, and you said that you started censoring people's faces out of the videos. What caused that sort of change in editorial direction?
You're good at this. I'll grant you that. You're good at this. I'll tell you what. So I saw a dude screaming at a woman in the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot. And I filmed it. It was hilarious. And I turned the camera to me and I said, "Bad day? Try a Hildeberg whiskey." It was hilarious.
I'll edit in the video, yeah.
Well,
you can judge for yourself the hilariousness of the...
It's objectively hilarious. Don't even front. Or hang out with cooler people if you don't think it is. So, here's what happened. The girl who was being berated reached out to me
Yeah.
and said, "Thank you for catching that."
Yeah.
Okay. And I went. She actually worked across the street from where I live. I gave her a bottle. We talked. Said, "Hey, if he ever is gonna, if he ever does that again, like I'm right across the street. I'm ready to fucking ride."
Uh-huh.
She was like, "He's out of the picture. That was it." And I felt really good about it.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
I started getting messages from people. One in particular was a woman who was still in an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
And she was like, "I just want you to know, if you had caught me on that, I would have gotten my ass beat
Yeah.
when I got home." And the thing that I realized in that, there was a couple others, but that was the one that really made me realize that for people who are watching someone at their lowest, social media has an impact beyond just the social media. It has an impact on the world. And it occurred to me that it's like, you know what? I'm the main event anyway. I'm the show. I can narrate what I'm seeing. I can keep the camera pointed at me and still get across the point that I'm trying to make. So why embarrass people? Why create a climate where people are afraid to be on Lark Street because they don't want their job to be jeopardized? It resonated with me, and so I have. That's one where, okay, fine. If you're gonna be a dick about it, the thing I regret about my early social media presentation is that I didn't need to sensationalize identities. I only needed to sensationalize behavior, and that can be done narrating it.
Okay. Can you talk to me about your time speaking with the Albany Homeless Union? Particularly Bevan Francis. I've been very blessed to spend some amount of time with her in her advocacy at City Hall. Yeah. Take it away.
So it's called the National Union of the Homeless, and Bevan and her colleague Joe have been very gracious in bringing me in and letting me kind of experience firsthand accounts in what are these group settings addressing homelessness. Now, Bevan's one of my favorite people. Like, one, she's easy on the eyes, and that obviously goes a long way. Two, she's a G. Like,
she rocks.
I've seen her do real, genuine social agitation in a way that is effective, in a way that most other fucking cosmopolitan latte sipping liberals refuse to actually do. She gets her hands muddy, and I acknowledge that, and I admire it. I think because she's so, in that regard, unafraid, unabashed, it made me be like, all right, this bitch is someone who deserves my respect right now. She's my alpha bows to her alpha. and so because of that, her command demands adoration, admiration, so I can shut the fuck up for a second and listen. And one of the things that she has done is describe to me the degree to which homelessness as a phenomenon is right around the corner for a lot of people. And that if you don't create a construct that helps people get a leg up, you could be down on your luck. You could have some sort of even temporary mental illness. You could have an injury or a sickness that takes you out of work. What I credit Bevan most with, that with which I most credit her, is she was patient enough to understand that my ignorance could be useful to her if she molded it a bit. And I'll tell you, I mean, I don't think that any of what my early posture is about we need to eliminate the homelessness out here is wrong.
Yeah.
But I do think that what she did was create a pathway where I could involve actual unhoused people in figuring out what the solution is. And I'll tell you, I mean, it works.
Yeah.
All it does, you spend one day with dudes who had to sleep in the fucking porta-johns in Washington Park before you're like, oh, like these are human beings and they're dealing with a human experience that we should not be wishing on anybody. And it turns out that like they are our responsibility because they don't have the resources to address it themselves. Our capitalist system isn't designed for them to have a second chance. Mm-hmm. It's not designed for them to have a leg up. Like, let's put it this way, Aidan. If Whiteman, Osterman, and Hanna can get $20 million as a handout from the government so that they can build a shiny new 9-story tall office complex, if they, the region's largest law firm, they need a fucking handout, then yeah, like the person sleeping in the Washington Park Porta-John probably does as well.
If we're talking about capitalism's relationship to the homeless, I mean, it exists as a deterrent, you know.
Sure.
This is what capitalism can do to you whenever it would like.
Yeah.
You know.
And listen, I'm a capitalist.
Yeah.
I love business. It's how my brain works. It's the language I speak. Mm-hmm. But I'm also aware of like capitalism doesn't work unless you have people to give you their money. And like, you know, it really is it's like people are forgetting that side of the equation, dude. Like you need to have a safety net so that people have money to give me.
Yeah. Speaking on, you know, your non-ethics based approach to your advocacy, activism, another sort of conundrum I wanted to bring to you is, you know, you're doing all of this of we need to fight these perceptions and maybe realities of crime and quality of life issues here.
Sure.
Do you think that your highlighting of those quality of life issues in the area creates a broader perception of quality of life issues in Lark Street, driving business away?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Great point. Great point. But I want to point something out.
Okay.
What I realize is I'm going to use an analog straight from the language to which I've been exposed at these National Union of the Homeless meetings. Albany hasn't hit rock bottom yet, and it may need to be escorted there before they take this seriously. You're absolutely right that by showing what's happening here, it could create this feedback loop where people are like, well, I'm not going down there. It sounds like I'm going to get accosted by panhandlers. It sounds dangerous, blah, 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 blah. Well, you want to know something, dude? You know what else makes people realize they don't want to come to Lark Street? Coming to Lark Street and getting accosted by panhandlers and dealing with the fact that there's human defecation all over the place, to include the planners right outside my tasting room.
Yeah.
So the way I see it is, folks, if you look at my tasting room, it is beautiful. This is designed to celebrate Albany in its heyday. Mm-hmm. There is a path to this. There is a way forward. And it is going to arrive at that destination when there is a concerted effort to make it so. It's not accidentally going to get there. Capitalism and its worst woes are not going to be alleviated by hope. It requires a concerted effort. When I say that I am going to war on poverty, understand that I'm going to war on poverty out of my own self-interest. And my own self-interest has been the most powerful force I've yet encountered. And I'll tell you right now, ending poverty is good for business. I actually don't know any other way to have good business other than ending poverty.
And I couldn't agree with you more. On this front, why is your most woke video while you're shirtless? Did you want to ensure that no one would see it? Watch to the end?
Which video is that? I've made several shirtless videos.
Shirtless woke videos?
Which is the one you're talking about? Do you even remember?
You're shirtless and you're talking about woke shit.
I don't. First of all, I'm bizarrely shirtless more than I probably should be in light of the fact that I've now developed this middle-aged Ashkenazi gut.
God bless.
But like I did my campaign announcement video while shaving shirtless in my.
No, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
What, was I talking woke in that?
I thought you were. I'll be honest.
You know what's so funny?
Hold on.
By the way, let me tell you something. If you interpreted that as woke, I just want to point out that's not woke. It's fucking common sense. I probably was talking the exact same thing I'm talking now, which is you need to end poverty if you want to have. Let's put it this way. I'm going to give another way of looking at it. You want to know what the best deterrent to communism is, if you really are afraid of communism, stop.
Probably making young men insecure, make them think they'll never lose their virginity unless they're like rich millionaires or something, or
No, what I was going to say is the best deterrent to communism is make communism not look better than capitalism.
yeah,
That's what it is. If you want to make communism look like it's not an ideal solution, stop giving people cause to consider it as an option.
yeah.
Straight up. And, I'll just say, because you, notwithstanding our myriad differences, Aidan, you were very gracious in wishing me well when I had a health issue.
Yeah.
One of the things I will say is that I am here, whether you folks are grateful for that or not, only because I was on New York Medicaid.
Yeah.
New York Medicaid paid for my exploratory experimental cancer treatment at Sloan Kettering, where the VA would not have covered that treatment. I only was on Medicaid because it was all for which I qualified when I was starting my business and had not returned to the kind of part-time practice of law. To me, New York Medicaid, for example, is capitalism. It's the part that makes capitalism work.
Yeah.
You cannot have capitalism without the safety net that people want to denigrate as socialism.
Yeah, and may I dedicate to New York State, I got a subsidized public education, which I left a skilled worker and immediately found work and could come here. And is that a success of New York style, big scary quotes, socialism that we brag about? No. No, we don't talk about it. We don't talk about our incredible state education program, our wonderful medical facilities, all of these things which are a result of our regulatory state, which gets as much malarkey as one could possibly imagine in politics. But it gives us great things and allows our businesses to thrive and have
straight up.
skilled
I was
employees
about to
and-
say, training, getting people trained
Yeah.
with work skills in these public institutions is what's necessary if I'm then going to go exploit those workers like a good capitalist. So it's two sides of the same coin. You simply cannot have one without the other.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and we're going to get into some of the stuff I think you've been biting to get at. Your ultimate business editorials. Let's see, this first one here. Oh, sorry. We're heating up. Oh, okay. We're going to reset the cameras. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right. And we're back. We're talking here about your editorials for the Altamont Business
Altamont
Review.
Enterprise, that's
yes,
right. Yep.
The Altamont Enterprise. My apologies. So the first of your editorials I saw was a call to Democrats in this most recent election
Sure.
to moderate your message. This Trump thing proves Democrats, we can't win. We keep pushing these social issues. We got to moderate towards the middle. I just have to ask, with this Mamdani win, does that feel like a rebuking of your premise?
So I'm not as familiar with Mamdani's positions, but what I will say is no. If anything, to the extent that from what I know about Mamdani, the mayoral candidate down in New York City, he was winning on an economic message. And that was precisely my point. It wasn't that I was saying in that article that we should be moderating calls for example, economic progressivism. One of the lines that I remember from that is, if you are going to insist on the primacy of Latinx or Latinx or Latinx, however you pronounce that, as being the way you designate Latinos, when the vast majority of Latinos reject that term, and that term itself is only a reflection of a bunch of white academics insisting on their values imposed colonially in a linguistic fashion on another people, then you're going to keep losing elections. My argument has been, what is the takeaway when Donald Trump, on the other side of multiple felony convictions, wins the White House again and does so with the largest margins demographically across the rainbow spectrum breaking for him than has ever happened before for a Republican presidential candidate. I thought that the fact that that didn't result in any type of introspection was both disappointing and, more to the point, shocking. If anything, from what little I know about what Mamdani is saying, he's speaking to not the identity politics of the moment. He's speaking to the fact that people can't afford to live in the city where they're working. He's speaking to the fact that there is no way to get ahead, that the reason Generation Z, for example, isn't moving out of their parents' house isn't because they want to be around mom and dad. It's because there are so few options available to them, especially when health insurance in this culture where we are sucking down poison every time we go out to eat has people more unhealthy than we've ever been before. And I think that frankly is a message that, if anything, proves what I'm saying, which is we need to start talking about the things that matter as broadly as possible.
Where I differ from you on this issue is I don't see politicians coming out. I don't see who's a local moderate elected. I don't see I don't see local moderate Democrats coming out here and we're going to get into office, and my big issue is that we're going to change all of the pronouns in the law to gender-neutral pronouns. I don't see that as like a campaign promise that people are being made. What I see is tepid, moderate Democrats not making promises to change people's lives.
I'll give you a great example.
And I think that's something that I think that's something that Trump, and I think that's something that Mamdani all have in common, is that you actually promise people things. I think that's the appeal.
I'm going to give you the counter to that. The first thing I'll say is, listen, stop breaking your promise to forgive student loan debt. Right? Stop breaking that promise. Stop making the promise in the first place.
Yeah.
Because it's just a wealth transfer to colleges.
Yeah.
To the wealthy colleges. It's kind of like, what I want to see is someone who's speaking in a manner that makes sense. And to your point, you may be right that there aren't politicians that I know of who are going out and saying, oh, it only, we're insisting that you have to have pronouns that reflect what people's preference are, blah, 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 blah. What I do know is that there's a lot of members on that Albany Common Council who insist on passing resolutions as pertain to the Middle Eastern Gaza conflict. That to me this is performative. And when I see people talking about student loan debt forgiveness, but they're not talking about the imposition of price controls on tuition, on colleges, what it feels like, Aidan, is that liberal politics right now are reactive. They're trying to capture the moment as opposed to birthing a new worldview and upholding it.
But I think you're speaking to a very important issue of the performative nature of a lot of liberal politics, and that in this performative nature, they're not promising you anything.
That's right.
They're not. This is how politics used to be played. I read this book, George W. Plinkett of Tammany Hall, right? And it details this politician and details how the political machine ran. Politicians used to promise people something.
Patronage.
You voted for someone
That's
because
right.
they would give you something.
That's right.
And maybe there's like some happy middle ground in this country between Tammany Hall and we're going to make you put Latinx in your fucking email bios.
The thing is that it just ends up being that what happens is you're scoring points based on how empathetic and, I hate this word, but how woke you can be.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up. By the way, I'm not going to stop using incendiary language. I'm not going to police how I want to express myself, and people's feelings will get hurt. I think the larger point is, if your feelings are getting hurt, that's not my responsibility. If you don't have enough food to eat, that's everybody's responsibility. That's what I want to see the focus on, and I don't see that there. And listen, if you don't believe me, look at the funding priorities coming out of this Democratic-controlled government. These are not people who would be recognizable to an FDR Democrat. Okay? Time to do some research, but I'll give you the outliers. You got $150 million going to renovate a museum.
Yeah.
You've got $200 million evidently dedicated towards what looks to be Liberty Park's redevelopment. Those are all going to big developers. You got $1 million going to a California consultancy to stage these performative workshops that are just press opportunities for the powers that be. I know that what we're not doing is we're not putting that money towards a public works campaign that gives money to small local contractors, engineers, architects, electricians, plumbers to rehabilitate 873 vacant buildings that are blighting our cityscape, bringing them back on the tax rolls and converting them into one, deeded properties that provide a pathway to home ownership for low-income tenants who have never before owned property and therefore can't get ahead of the rat race, and two, dispersed locations for the provision of services to the mentally ill and the unhoused, right? I've written this plan out. And I wrote this plan out in my sleep, player.
Yeah.
Why is it that conventional liberal politics are still spending so much time on what appear to be almost these kind of like theatrical, little identity-focused concerns? I don't need to hear anymore, for example, about what the Common Council thinks of the Russia-Ukraine situation. I don't need to hear about what they think of the Middle East conflict. I also don't want to keep, having to have the conversation over and over and over about biology. If you're a conservative, you believe in small government freedom, so therefore you should not have a problem with someone wearing clothes expressing their choice for the opposite gender. Period. Okay, period. If you are, concerned about what pronouns someone uses, stop. Don't be concerned. But I'll tell you this right now. Don't hold it against me that I'm not going to necessarily accommodate your preference of pronoun. I just may not. I'm entitled to my insensitivity, and you need to be sensitive to my insensitivity. That goes all around. Left, right. It feels like they're having a conversation about all the things that don't matter.
I think I'm going to implement some of your own advice, and I think I'm going to bring it back to the economic issues. Please tell us all about your 6 pillars for Albany's revitalization.
Truly, thank you for this opportunity. What I've developed is, because no one has the attention span to remember any of these concepts without a acronym. This is my recipe. The 6 pillars for Albany's rejuvenation are, this is rehabilitation of 873 vacant buildings that we need to bring on to the tax rolls by working with a multi-agency response under the auspices of a revitalization czar, someone that can coordinate this response to get these blighted properties back into use, a place for people to get deeds, and I will also point out a way for us to combat the absolutely unforgivably embarrassing black-white divide in home ownership. The city of Albany is the second worst in the fucking nation for the disparity as to whites who own property and blacks who own property. We need to provide a pathway to home ownership for black families to create an intergenerationally transferable wealth asset that keeps them in a neighborhood and doesn't result in the gentrification that drives out the very people that we're trying to help. Number one. Number two, may I?
I mean, I just really would like to say, this is the plan that really, I think, generated conversations between us.
Okay.
I think I was basically pretty fundamentally opposed to communicating, and then when I read this, I was so pleasantly surprised and realized, I think you are someone to talk to. I think you are someone to listen to, and I think bring this forward makes you an important voice in
Well, I
Albany
appreciate that.
politics.
I also want to point out, just so that, I don't lose the population that rightfully thinks that this guy's a Bolshevik agitator. Everything I'm saying is a supplement to capitalism. Straight up. For example, the next one, education. We have to invest in education for the exact same reasons that you previously said, that when you invest in the education of tomorrow's worker base, you create a more competent asset for business. And additionally, if we know that because we don't have opportunity, economic or otherwise, for youth in this city, that's why they're picking up the gun, which is what I would do. If you took all my money away,
Yeah.
if you gave me no safety net, bro, I'm not busting my ass in a rigged system. I'm picking up a gun.
Yeah.
Straight up. So youth opportunity, economic education, that's how you stop there being so many perpetrators of youth gun violence.
Can I ask
Please.
you on that point? Where do you think the city is falling short? Do you think there aren't enough after-school programs? Is this the police Albany Police Athletic League? Is this a shortcoming there? Is this
The first thing I would say is that I'd want to talk to the proper people.
Yeah.
I can only address this issue by the symptoms. The symptoms of how many youths,
Yeah.
adolescents are firing weapons, and how many youths, adolescents are stopping the bullet with their chests. That's what's up.
Yeah.
So I don't know necessarily what the prescription is. What I do know is that should be number one funding priority for us to figure it the fuck out.
What do you think about this recent proposal from the Albany City Council? It isn't a curfew for
Please don't
students.
talk about the curfews.
All right.
Please. and like, you're so dumb. You're so dumb. Common Council members. You're so dumb. Curfews are going to work for the people who already abide by the law. Shootings happen all throughout the day. To the extent that there is a concentration at night, are you really going to confine people to the under-resourced environment that they're trying to escape? Have we learned nothing from your outrageously ludicrous liberal politics that had us keep kids from school for 2 years in COVID? Like, we don't need curfews. We need opportunities for these youths. I don't know what else to tell you. I almost, here's the thing. I almost don't want to get dragged into this because I don't know how to articulate how dumb it is.
God bless.
And I haven't done, because I'm not going to do the research to show how dumb it is. Let's just say that if you're stopping violence by restricting people to their house, you are sending the wrong message when it comes to the civic education of the people we need to uphold democracy. I'm not even going to talk about this actually anymore.
God bless. Do you mind if I say something about it?
Please.
It just seems like another instance in which people will be stopped and frisked, sort of needlessly. You know, Albany police officers will be stopping people, guessing how old they are, guessing all of these things about this person's intent to be out on the street. It's ridiculous. It's unnecessary. And to your point, we need to find opportunities for these youths as opposed to
This is, by the way,
punitive measures.
this is your people. This came out of your people, bro.
I don't necessarily claim claim anyone on the city council right,
All right,
now.
because
other than maybe Derek
I
Johnson.
just want to point out, I'm party unaffiliated.
Yeah.
What are you?
I am a registered Democrat.
All
That
right.
is true.
All right. All right. I'm party unaffiliated. This is why. This is horseshit. And it's unconscionable. Anyway, let's move on to C, civic services. REC in my recipe, 6 pillars. The C is civic services. Right off the bat, I already talked about the fact that our police department is down 90 slots. We're putting $150 million into renovating the museum, but only 1/100th of that, $1.5 million, into the police department. Let's be clear. No one is going to go visit the museum if they have to run through the panhandling gauntlet, and parking in the subterranean parking complex of the plaza is so intimidating. If you want people to be able to freely come to the plaza and to the museum, you need to give them a sense that they're safe, perception or otherwise. That means we need to invest in not just our police department and the personnel there, but training and community outreach. When I was a kid, quick little story.
Please.
My parents, notwithstanding their anti-Vietnam protests that had them constantly in opposition with law enforcement, they told me, this person in uniform, this is safety. If something ever happens to you, you need to come to law enforcement. Now, my approach to speed on the highways is such that I have interactions with law enforcement that aren't my favorite these days. But I've always seen people in uniform as heroes, as people that are safe. It breaks my heart that there are people who don't see that. and especially from an ethnic demographic, that needs to change, and that can be prioritized with funding through police department community outreach programs.
Can we say of those people that don't feel that way, that it is, not incumbent on those people to just innately have this admiration for the police?
You're right.
There is work that needs to be done.
You're absolutely
to earn
right.
these people's trust.
Listen, here's a heartbreaking thing. Notwithstanding what you've read on Reddit, that I'm racist. So when I was in both college and law school, high percentage of my friend group was black. And one of the things that used to just make
classically can't be racist if
can't be racist. My friends
if
are
your
black.
friends are black.
Friends are black. And the thing that really filled me with rage was the degree to which they accepted a society that because of my privilege, it was hard to wrap my head around the fact that, for example, if we were going to drive somewhere, I had to drive because they were like, yeah, well, you're going to get less likely to be pulled over. Or when my boy Josiah would come over and he would wait till all the cars had left before he knocked on my door so that someone wouldn't call the fucking police because a black man was outside.
Yeah.
There were all these weird little, what would now potentially be called microaggressions that he just internalized. My boy Randy, the fact that he once went sprinting, in a full suit, by the way, from my apartment to the law school, and 7 squad cars were called and showed up looking for the black man who was running through the neighborhood with a suit. Those things show me that for reasons that I'm not blaming the police. I'm not taking a side here when it comes to the fact that there is an animosity between the police departments and the black community. The reality is that there is, and there's a historic basis for it. You can't deny that. And I think that when we all have a responsibility of making sure that everyone can see police officers as being protectors. And that's not going to happen when you've got this much socioeconomic disparity from neighborhood to neighborhood to neighborhood. Because where's the policing going to go? It's going to go to those neighborhoods that have fewer resources, because that's where crime happens.
Yeah.
Poverty breeds crime, because that's what happens. So there's a whole kind of systemic reality that we have to acknowledge. And by the way, again, I want to be really clear about this. It's not a left-right issue. All right? If this sounds familiar to you, fucking good for you. If it doesn't sound familiar to you, read a book. Everyone here, whether you like it or not, everyone in America is an American. And that means that you're going to have to deal with a bunch of people that are not like you. That's what makes us competitively great. So we are going to have to deal with the fact that there's a lot of trauma in these communities, but then let's start dealing with it. And let's stop squandering the money towards things that at best are only going to reinforce these issues. Why the fuck are we putting money into the plaza when we still have so many abandoned buildings in these red line districts in Albany? That's a capitalist's question.
Can I, in addition, on the policing issue, again, I have my qualms with we need more police officers, etc. This is temporary funding, right? This dries up. This is one time. So what is the one-time investment you are making into policing that will improve communities' perceptions, improve all of these issues that you perceive with the current state of policing?
Yeah, I mean, look, again, it's just a matter of dealing with the quality of life issues that are suppressing the tax base.
Okay.
It's a matter of getting the force up to a situation where you're not responding to crime, you're preventing it.
But in the question, staffing, you can't spend it on staffing because it is a one-time injection of cash.
You begged the question. It's a tautology right there. Let me be clear. You absolutely can, because the idea is your misallocation of resources means artificially that you don't have the funding. When you do the one-time injection, the idea is you have to reshift where funding priorities go. And the problem that I have is that we have this incessant drumbeat towards capitalizing projects, building.
And the reason that we do towards capitalizing is because it's that one-time expense.
That's exactly right. You
and-
said it. But remember, those things always happen. There's always a capitalization budget. What I'm saying is that the police department has a budget that clearly is not sufficiently funded. They're going to tell you, oh, we have all the money we need. No, you're not, because you're not competitively hiring people. What I'm saying, Aidan, is reimagine what the actual tax obligation to manage the city is by properly capitalizing the police department to hire competitive talent.
But that has nothing to do with the state funding. This is a plan
true.
for the state funding.
That's true.
What are you doing to address policing with the state funding, the one-time allocation of funding?
Number one, if you're going to put $150 million into a museum, if you really want to push me on this,
Okay.
put $150 million into an index fund over the course of the next 10 years, where you can amortize that out, and because of the money that you're making off of investments from that portfolio, just like the fucking pension system, you'll be able to capitalize your police department. Do not fall into this fiction where we can't do whatever the fuck we want with money that we conjure up out of nowhere. $400 million that came from somewhere. Where?
So you're telling me that of this $400 million, you're going to spend $150 million, just have it sit in a bank account to fund this policing, or was that just an example of something we could do?
It's an example, but let me
Okay.
give you the alternative. $150 million towards enhancing the police budget so we can hire competitive talent and properly staff the entire building over the course of the next 10 years, or $150 million into a museum. Don't pretend in this either-or situation that I'm wasting money by putting it in a bank account to finance proper operations of the police department that are going to stabilize the city and enhance the tax base versus the museum.
This is something that we are just I can appreciate. I do not understand the capital funding needs of the museum. And I can appreciate where you're coming from, and I think we're just going to differ, especially.
Sure.
And I would like to highlight the capital needs of the city.
We need to bust through some fictions here.
Please.
You cannot come up with $400 million and hard code it into the budget if what your objective is to just give it to your rich developer friends, which is what it is. They could have put that $400 million towards anything. They elected to do it towards development. Okay, so already it's stacked against us. What you're talking about is a wealth transfer to developers, the people who are going to become the landlords of the properties that we pay them to build. Roger that. You want to know what we could have done? If you wanted to say, all right, but Jesse, we want shovel-ready projects. All right, public works campaign. Put that money in an account that's designed to get 873 vacant buildings back onto the tax rolls. Put that money towards small businesses that hire, for example, unskilled labor in the form of teens who are coming out of high school and need a place to work. Oh, well, $400 million isn't enough to put 873 vacant buildings onto the tax roll. Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. Because we're not talking about a soccer stadium. We're not talking about 1,000 units that are designed for students who have subsidized housing. What we're talking about is providing a pathway towards low-income tenancy, converting it into home ownership, and beautifying a city that, whether you put the $150 million into the museum or down to build a soccer stadium, is still going to be unattractive to people who don't want to drive through the avenues of approach and see all these vacant buildings.
Quickly summarize the last of these revitalization points, and I will simply give you the floor to propagandize at your will.
Well, I'll just keep them. So we already did the R, E, and C of our recipe. So for the I, P, and E, I is innovation, a deliberate and express funding of small business initiatives, not big development projects. We need to create an ecosystem that is amenable to the small shops and to the entertainment that is organic to the people who are living here, not these big mega projects that ultimately are just testaments to people's egos. As far as P, similarly, preservation. Our historic value as one of the oldest cities in the entire continent, this is an incredible legacy that we have here. The Albany Plan of Union of 1754, authored principally by Ben Franklin, was the blueprint for how America came together, the unification of the 13 colonies and the country that we have today. We need to, therefore, start lionizing that history, leveraging it in a way that I simply don't see when I walk around, and similarly provide incentives for the upkeep of some of these incredibly historic buildings that are what it is that makes us such a beautiful little upstate town. Finally, empathy. That is the most important one because it is why the first pillar, rehabilitation, means anything. Mm-hmm. We have to understand that the people who, for example, are on the street, mentally ill, drug addicted, they are not going to go anywhere. That is a reality of the system in which we live, but we can alleviate the suffering in a way that enhances our overall community and the business prospects therein. Additionally, we know that housing is very difficult for people who can never get ahead of the hit of their rent payments. We need to give people a stake in this community by creating a pathway to home ownership. So people have a vested interest in this community that I'm trying to beautify, and with an express focus on, in redline districts, historically marginalized neighborhoods where you have a lot of minority communities, all of these efforts to put money into, like the West Hills Community Center, when you upgrade the neighborhood and the resources therein, there's a documented ancillary impact of gentrification, driving out the people that can't afford the inevitable rising of the rent. Mm-hmm. Therefore, what we need to do is create a means of getting pillars of that community a way to have themselves a deed, to live in a property that they can transfer. The basis for wealth is real property. That's why when Kendrick Lamar at the Super Bowl spits out 40 acres and a mule, what he's talking about and what seems to be lost to the legions of people who aren't getting this information in our public school education curriculum is that we're trying to give assets to people, stuff that they can give their progeny. So that's a huge component. That is my recipe, the 6 pillars of what I would do if given $400 million in a way that's going to create a cycle of increased circular investment in the future.
Excellent, excellent. And on the back of that, you are running for president of the city council.
I am. I'm running
Common
for,
Council.
as
Apologies.
a write-in candidate on the ballot.
Yep. Hey, Byron Brown did it. The political dynasty of Jesse Sommer may also do it. So you're running. Can you speak on the incumbent, Corey Ellis, and also your competitor, Kelly Kimbrough?
Yeah, so Corey Ellis is right now the president of the Common Council. He aborted his bid for the mayoralty of Albany, and he is going to be leaving the Common Council and city government at the end of this cycle. Kelly Kimbrough, look, all I'll say is seems to be a nice guy, but where is he?
Yeah.
Why is it that he's not the one advocating for a policy prescription for the city of Albany? I think this is my frustration, that a lot of the municipal leadership that we elect into office are essentially apathetic. I'm not saying that this is a character defect for Mr. Kimbrough. What I'm saying is that the enthusiasm, the energy, the ideas are not coming from people who are currently at the Common Council. There needs to be a much more aggressive focus on targeted, innovative strategies for municipal management, and we're not going to get it from the only person who's running with a ballot line. He is the Democrat. There is no Republican running against him. No working families candidate, no conservative candidate. I am, as far as I know, the only one who's making a bid for that office in a write-in capacity. And what I'd say is, if I'm staging my Meet Me meetups, where constituents in each of Albany's 15 wards can talk to me about my ideas and theirs, he's the one who should be doing that. Just instead of coasting into office because he, someone who's already a member of the Common Council, doesn't have anyone running. This is my frustration with Albany politics. It ends up just being a torch that's passed over and over and over to an insular group of people because everyone else is simply too defeated to try to mount a compelling campaign to seize the levers of government.
All right, so that means November 4th, and before then you have the meetups.
That's exactly
I don't know
right.
if you have the dates in front of you,
yes,
but I can
October
also put them
1st,
up.
October 2nd, and then October 5th through the 15th.
Mr. knows his plugs.
Boom.
And then November 4th, you can vote as a write-in candidate, Jesse Summers. November 7th, you can go to Lark Hall, 8 p.m., Capital Region Feud, where you might be a contestant. I don't know. I have to run that through other people now.
Okay.
So, we're going to ask you the questions. These are the questions. If you've watched Family Feud, you know, they ask them questions. They say, survey says, and then they tell you roughly how many people answered that same answer that the contestants give. So I'm going to run you through the gauntlet. Who do you think is the man featured in the fountain in Washington Park?
Is it Moses?
It is Moses.
Bam!
Good. That is a correct answer.
With
You'd
his
be
arms
stunned.
up, right? Like I think the Red Sea.
Parting the Red Sea.
There you go. Okay.
You'd be stunned how many wrong answers we get. It's actually the only objective question we've ever asked as part of the survey. But we get wrong answers.
Look, he's in theory, I descend from Moses.
Yeah,
So.
that's a good point. I was thinking the other day how fucked up it is that he got a 90-year-old woman pregnant.
Oh, dude, that's what's
among other things. But all right, name your first act if you were the new mayor of Albany, or maybe even Common Council President.
I would assemble all of the agencies responsible for development, and I would appoint a revitalization czar. I would capitalize through the county finance commissioner and the Albany Building Department a campaign to rehabilitate these vacant buildings by bidding them out to small business contractors, and these outfits would get them back onto the tax rolls and prepared to take new ownership. The only thing that misses is my coordination with the county district attorney's office, because you better believe in order for the community to get those buildings so that we can start rehabbing them, we're going to have to bring prosecutions against criminal violations of the zoning code by absentee landlords.
All right, next question. Name an exhibit in the State Museum that you love so much.
Mammoth.
All right, that was
Bam.
quick. Name something you would do with the $400 million Albany received from the state.
Answered it. Rehabilitate 873 vacant buildings and dispossessing absentee landlords of their holdings of those properties.
Correct answer. Name something you might see on the Albany subreddit.
Someone claiming I'm a racist bigot.
Name something trashy that you might see on a house in the Capital Region.
Ooh. If it's my house, I'm hoping it's a scantily clad woman.
Name someone you believe could be the Troy Pooper.
Oh my God, what is the Troy Pooper?
Well, you've been around Troy before, right?
Yeah.
A lot of poop around there. Someone's got to be leaving it.
Oh my God. I mean, it's clearly people who have decided that they've like to take a summer away from Lark Street, and I'm sure we're going to get it back eventually.
All right, and the last question. Give me one word to describe Vic Christopher.
Traitor.
All right, that is your Capital Region Feud questions.
I mean,
You
my
can
God,
see-
dude, it's like, call me back and do business with me. It's unbelievable.
You can see how everyone else answered the survey November 7th at Lark Hall at 8 o'clock. Jesse, it's been a phenomenal
Hey,
conversation.
man, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I'm excited to come back here.
You're welcome anytime.
Thank you very much.
And you'll notice, just take notes at home. This is what capitalism looks like.
I've been writing it down for sure.
All right, dude. Thanks so much.
Thanks, November 4th, you can vote as a write-in candidate, Jesse Sommers. November 7th, you can go to Lark Hall, 8 p.m., Capital Region Feud, where you might be a contestant. I don't know. I have to run that through other people now.
Okay.